All right. So we'll just jump right into it.
Okay.
We're here with Hanna Bauer. Welcome to the podcast. What would you like to tell us about your background?
Ooh, well, first of all, thanks for having me here. It's honestly a pleasure to have fellow Maxwell team members to be able to have this conversation. That's a little bit of my background, actually. I think that's how our my first initial connection was through the Maxwell Leadership Team. And for my background as an entrepreneur, I've actually served as a CEO for a publishing company. Also chaired not only at the local levels, but also nationally, board of directors for my trade industry, again, in educational publishing. And overall, it's just been servant leadership. So that's a little bit of my background, change management. I'm an addict for leadership and transformational change. So anything in there, you'll usually find me going either to conferences, summits, anything I can get my hand on, and of course, serving leaders. That's where my heart goes to.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah, what a great background. That's why you know so much. When I listen to you, Hannah, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is, I want to be like her when I grow up. How do you, how do you balance, being a mother, being a wife, being, in so many of these leadership communities?
Okay, so I think the balance is that daunting, nightmarish questions. I don't think it's really possible to balance. But I think maybe at times has been coping, at times has been managing, at times has been just putting attention where attention needs to be put at the time. So I think that's one of the things that for me is understanding what phase am I in my life and my career with my family. Obviously, going through pregnancy and childbirth, and the whole initial part is going to require me
Yeah.
to have a lot more time there. And for me, very crucial the first 6 years for my kids, for each one of them. So I made sure that my business was serving not just me what I want to do, but most importantly, what my main role, I believed at the time, was with not only motherhood but family. So
Mhm.
virtual for me was a big deal. Once I
Mhm.
discovered virtual, I was like, oh, well, we can do this. You know, it gave me some time back. So although I'm not a techie, and I tell that to everyone, it's like I'm not a techie. I have actually been an adopter of technologies earlier on than I think a lot of my peers, and even in my business, because that was one of the things I did discover as an entrepreneur, back before the whole remote working and before the whole hybrid work learning. I had to figure out, because I live in the South, I live in Georgia,
Mhm.
and we had, some people may have heard about the snowmageddon that we had, but
Hmm.
like everything kind of got shut down, right? So, when that happened, that both tested the infrastructure that we had in place, and also it showed the gaps that we still had to go. But I would say for me, it showed me that I was going in the right direction, and being able to be as a CEO, essentially
Mhm.
have a dashboard to where I could keep a pulse on every area of my business. But also it showed me which direction we needed to go, so that if it was due to snow or due to any shutdown, we were still going to be able to do business and have the least amount of interruption as possible. So that actually helped me manage where I was. If I could have a working dashboard, have activities in my business that are virtual, and make sure that I'm prioritizing where I need to be in the physical. Before the whole COVID pandemic happened, I was already starting to operate that way. So it really helped me be able to, again, in a sense, balance and make sure I wasn't missing the things that were important to me, like the baseball games, like the wrestling matches.
Wow.
Those things. Virtual allowed me to be able to do that and yet still get the functions of the business done.
I love what you said that, right at the very beginning, you were responding, you said you put the focus where the focus needs to be.
Mm.
Sorry
Yeah.
if you can hear my kids and my dog are going crazy. I don't know what is going
Hey,
on
that's
this
good.
morning.
That's life, right? That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yes, we all
It's
have
just
that.
If there's any background noise, just ignore it. But
I got five
uh,
kids. I get it.
Yeah, oh my. I didn't know you have
Five.
five.
Yep,
Wow.
five children.
wow. What's the range on them?
Well, the eldest one is 21 now. My
Wow.
youngest one is 5.
So very similar to
Wow.
mine. I have four. My oldest is
Oh.
15. She just got her driver's permit.
Oh,
And my
I feel
youngest
you.
is also 5.
Oh, cool.
Wow. I love that. For
Yeah.
me, I only have two and they're both adults now. So I miss that 5-year-olds. I love that
Oh,
stage in their lives,
yeah.
when they're still sweet, they love you. They're like, Mom, you're so kind. I love you.
Yeah, when they're little,
I
you know
miss
they
that.
grow.
Yeah.
No, there's a couple of things to that because I mean, as far as like, I wish I could tell you, oh, I always knew how to prioritize my time. No, I didn't.
Mhm.
So it wasn't like I always knew things. I think it's there was times where the pain of missing things or the
Mhm.
guilt, the mommy guilt even got to be
Yeah.
so loud. It's like, well, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to have to, yeah, like what do I have to
Yeah.
do? So sometimes it was the mommy guilt just kind of taking over, but I think the self leadership enough to say like I don't have to stay under this. I can do something about it. Use this as a redirect for what I need to do. Because there were many times where things, yeah, they come all at once. A kid gets sick. There's also another one of my kids had a very important thing with like sports or a little graduation or something, and then business, something's going on. There's a fire going on in the business, and then health starts taking, and it's all at the same time.
Mm.
So I think I would say sometimes in my reprioritizing, if we were to say, came out of
Mhm.
like which fire first or what's priority first, right? Like out of all the things, I can't be there at all times. So I would say it was the prioritizing came a lot of having to sometimes just this can't go on, and we're
Mm.
putting a line on the sand on what needs to happen. The other part came from the having as a kid living with a terminal condition with a heart disease since the age of 4 that as a kid, it gave me a different perspective on what everyday life looked like and what was important. So, again, I wouldn't say that all the time. Oh, I knew like every day living is like my last day because as a kid, you just kind of
Mhm.
don't know that.
Yeah.
As an adult looking back at it, and then even as a teenager, when I wanted to go full speed ahead, and even as an adult, I want to do that because I see where does that come from? It came from realizing every day my mortality as a kid, fighting to breathe and just having be without pain as my heart just beat. So there were just basic
Mm.
life things that most people are not aware of. I was aware of, and later on in life. I went back to that to help me reprioritize, which is where I am now, right? I mean, it's a lot of lessons learned. And yes, there's the gap. Like my 21-year-old, like he just got engaged last weekend. And
Oh,
oh,
congratulations.
thank you.
Excellent.
It's huge, right? It's huge. I'm like, yesterday we had like a get together for him, and it was like, oh my gosh, it's becoming more real. And at the same time, I'm thinking about my 5-year-old's kindergarten graduation. So it's like, like two things. Like I'm talking about the upcoming graduation in May, and then I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, and then here's this other one where it's about to my first one getting married. So it's like both of them at the same time. So that's also my world. It's like, how do you really balance that? I don't think you.
Yeah. Lots of fun. I wouldn't say stressful because we all, you know, I think it's how we really learn. But I love so many things about, all that you shared, having a heart condition, having this learning that like numbering our days, not living like it's your last, but there's so much wisdom in the awareness that you have this condition. You gotta do the best, that you are given. Every single day is a gift, right?
Yeah.
So tell me more about that, from a child's perspective. how did you cope knowing that you have that condition?
Okay, so I would like to say at 5 years old, I really understood what death was. So
Mm-hmm.
I like, so as a 4 or 5 year old, I didn't understand like I'm gonna die. I understood I can't breathe.
Mm,
I understood it's painful. And I also understood that my loved ones around me were doing everything possible to help me, and whatever it was, they couldn't help me. So I think those were a lot of like in a sense, the framework that I started facing as a kid. At the same time, although I would see that what they were trying to do didn't help me physically, like it didn't get my heart rate back to normal
mm,
and it didn't get me breathing again, it helped me to push through or get through that very agonizing, painful moment.
mm,
So that started creating this whole cycle, understanding that when it was that time, and it was uncertain with heart disease, and you probably know this better
mhm,
eventually,
mhm,
So, in my case, it wasn't like when you start feeling like a cold coming on, you start feeling
yeah.
there's symptoms, there's something, like,
Mm,
hey, I'm not like maybe my head's hurting or something like that. It was not like that with heart disease. It suddenly, bam,
yeah.
it would hit you. Will be fine sitting and talking to you, and then my heart would go into this tachycardia for no reason. It could have been because I turned to the left and then it started. It could have been because I sneezed. It could have
Mm,
been in the middle of my sleep. So it was very uncertain what caused it. There wasn't like, oh, if I do this, so I need to stay away from that. It wasn't like, with diabetes, if I eat something
mhm,
sweet, I know what's going to happen. And then we could do this glucagon and then something else. No, there wasn't something that I could do to prevent it. There was nothing I could do to stop it either. So as a kid learning the uncertainty,
mhm,
I had to become, in a sense, friends with uncertainty. I had to become friends with the crises
mhm,
and understand what things I had to go on with in the sense of, okay, I can manage this part. Like I could manage tachycardia. I
mm,
knew once it started, I had about maybe 6 hours, 7 hours before it started feeling debilitating. I knew it was by day number two. I knew it was going to be bad because now 2 days of tachycardia as a kid, it
mm,
was bad. What got really bad, when I knew was different, not only when it go fast, but when it would go arrhythmia, when it
mm,
started going into the irregular heartbeats. So I knew with the irregular heartbeats, it wasn't a matter of managing anymore. I really needed to stop because it was going to be bad. So I started being very aware as a kid,
yeah.
growing with that, with these physical parts of in between the gaps.
Mhm,
I had to learn to do my homework or play whatever I could in
mm,
between those little gaps because I didn't know how long the gaps were going to be in between things. So I would say those were the learning lessons, honestly, that I took into leadership
mhm,
because there were times, and if you, and this is something I work a lot with my leaders in, although I didn't have a heart disease anymore after the last surgery, and it was, by the way, I mean, I guess moving forward, I did go through two heart attacks. I did
oh
go through
my.
many heart failures. I basically lived in the hospital for about 5 years since I was 10. And I guess my perspective as far as what not was well, it wasn't just when I said I was well, it was when my doctors and everybody else told me, "Oh, you're doing great, you're doing good." It's like, okay, I don't feel great, I don't feel good, but if you're telling me that, that's awesome. And having all the monitors, right? Because my life had to be very still. I couldn't walk. I couldn't go to do anything. I mean, I wasn't even allowed to go to school for a period because the liability was so big due to the heart attacks. So I grew up with these monitors, always this telling me what was okay, what was not okay. What, oh man, I shouldn't have stood up that fast to go to the restroom. Or maybe I shouldn't have tried to by myself because then now my monitors are going all over the place and all of these things. So when after my surgery, I had in 1992, I had already had open heart surgery, heart caths, all kinds of interventions. There was this opportunity for never been done. A new technology at the time. It was called a heart ablation, and
Mm-hmm.
I was actually the first child that they did
Wow.
this with in combination, yeah, with the hospitals here in Eggleston, Scottish Rite, Emory University. It was experimental,
Mm-hmm.
and that was innovation. And this is where this is a big core principle in what I
Mm-hmm.
do with leaders is, using that adversity, using all of these experiences, and really like the sustainability aspect for me was the love, also the excellence, because you do have to know what you're measuring. You do have to know the failure points, the processes, the systems in there, so that you can innovate, so that you can
Mm-hmm.
move forward. So as I moved forward, I noticed that those were some of the things that I needed as a leader, like the monitors. They did. I started becoming very much reliant. Okay, what are the results I'm looking at? What are the metrics? And sometimes we don't do that in leadership, and
Mm-hmm.
then we end up with tachycardia that really takes us out because we're in the burnout. You're in the burnout stage, or you
Yeah.
end up in arrhythmia because of the silos. Everybody's got has their own,
Mm-hmm.
there's their priorities are all over the place. And I realized that in my case, I was adding on to that as a leader because I was not being intentional in defining what that was like, not only for my leadership, but really for my organization. So I would say as a kid, having those perspectives of what was vital to me as a human, as a body, really translated into what I saw became vital as an organization, also a living body with the different parts that were going on.
Wow. That, I mean, to have that experience when you're a kid is that's a lot, right? That's a heavy
Mm-hmm.
burden to bear. I mean, you don't really feel it probably as a child because that's just your life. That's what you know. But from someone who didn't experience that, hearing about it, it's like, wow, that's a lot to deal with. Um, I'm sorry that things were that way for
Mm-hmm.
you, but I'm also grateful for you, being able to share it and grateful that you survived it and
Yeah.
that it had the effect that it did on you because it's obviously, you know, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger and all that,
Yeah.
right? Like it
Let me
did
think.
you you came through it really well. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and I appreciate it. But like I said, like I think the aha moment came for me is years later when I don't have a heart disease
yeah.
and I'm feeling and going through the same things that a heart disease
Mm-hmm.
would create.
Yeah.
Except, what's the difference? I'm in leadership. I'm running a business, and it's all these other things that, and I believe, Evangeline, that's what you're talking about with the burnout, because burnout feels exactly the same, very similar to what a
Mm-hmm.
heart disease does, because stress will eat away
Yeah.
at you. It will, cause all kinds of, like, you can make decisions. When I was going through my heart problems as a kid with the lack of oxygen and things, I couldn't make decisions. Everything was blurry. I
Yeah.
see that with the leaders all the time now. The inability for decision making because the uncertainty is high, the change is too fast, and they don't really know the priorities for their organizations. In a sense, it's like, and I being also myself in that, it's the same way I felt when I was going through this, except it's like it's living with leadership where you cannot make the right decisions because of all these things that are coming, and really the uncertainty. I don't know what's going to make it stop. I don't know what it starts. I really just, this is what I'm supposed to do, so I'm just gonna not do anything and let time decide. And that's where I find a lot of the leadership nowadays. That's where my heart really goes out to their heart, because being an entrepreneur, being a CEO, having, and I think for anybody who's listening, one thing is teaching about leadership and business. The other one is having the weight of payroll on your
Mm.
shoulders, where you're
Yeah.
having to, it's not just, I need to make income for my family. All these families are depending on me so that they can bring home the income needed. And that's where I was. I was in the middle. I mean, I had over 100 families depending on me. I had contractors depending on me. And in a place where it was so uncertain, even with the change in, I mean, for me, I was disrupted big time in my industry, in the publishing industry. 2010 when even the death of print was declared because this thing ebooks was coming along. It was really taking off, right? The ebooks and nobody knew what that looked like. Nobody knew what was the business model for that. You know, now content is free. Now anybody could self-author. Now anybody can be a thought leader in a sense. They didn't need the big publishing houses anymore. And we had to reevaluate what our value add was, what was our significance in the business, and grow from there. So that to me was a heart attack. That was multiple heart attacks coming at once. And I had to live that through my organization and industry.
Yeah, it's really weird how stress is a really strange thing. Because like I mentioned before, when we first met, earlier, I spent a long time with the military. All of
Hmm.
that time that I spent in the military, we had stress. There were
Yeah.
obviously there were things that, happen that you're like, oh man, this is kind of stressful.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your
But
service, by the way. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
thank you.
you.
But but you kind of get used to that. That's just like the way things are, right?
Mm.
Mhm.
Um, After that period of my life ended, right? Well, it sort of ended because I shifted into a new phase of my life. I met my wife, we got married, that all happened within a year. And then now we've been married for 17 years, but um,
Oh,
you know,
congratulations.
that that was a whole new kind of stress,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And then we had a kid, and then, you know, I 2009 happened and I couldn't find a job for like 2 years. And you want to talk about I've got a child and another child on the way and no job and a mortgage and oh my goodness, that was a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And that's why only half my face works now. Used to be my whole face used to work, but only half of it works now.
Just look different, y'all. Me too. Me too.
Yeah. I'm
But
not gonna, yeah, go ahead, Zach.
when I when I, as I was listening to what you were talking about, your childhood and everything, I kept thinking, when I was a kid, I thought my parents just kind of like somehow they just knew how to be parents. I thought there was some, I don't know, class or they like some knowledge that just became instilled in parents whenever they became parents. And now that I'm a parent, I know, no, you just kind of figure it out as you go, right? It's like
Yeah.
the whole I'm building the airplane while I fly it kind of a thing, right? Like you're
Yeah.
just trying to manage chaos. Um, but my question is how has your experience as a child informed your leadership as a parent?
Oh. Well, everything. Ian, this goes back to one of the frameworks I actually train my leaders on, and that's the heart framework. I realized as a child, and again, is looking back, what really got me through, but what really, in times of really no, there was no answer. There was nowhere I can look at and there's something going on. Like, and I think it's that's the times I felt like that in parenthood, big time. I will say that probably I was least prepared in the transition once they turn 18 and they're not quite an adult, they're not quite a kid, and you're not trying
Yeah.
to do that. And I'm like, I didn't think it was gonna be as hard. And it was one of those moments that hit me just recently when my 21-year-old's like, wait, what? What are we doing here? Kind of like those take your breath away. It reminds me of as a kid and in parenting is that values-based leadership, values-based, very much. Again, what made me like we just talked about figuring out. You do figure out because I don't have the answers. I don't know what to do, and a value that I very much hold dear, and that is the first value I teach in my heart framework is hope. Hope
Mhm.
being the value of hope as a catalyst, not a passive, there's a positive affirmation, even just like, hey, he's right there. But hope being like, hey, because I'm hopeful, I'm able to look at the reality and I'm able to utilize what I see in the reality, inject it with hope. It helps me figure out different alternatives, options. It helps me be adaptable because of basically adaptability as a result of hope. And having to grow in hope then allows me to do that. Not again, not as this passive, positive thinking, but utilizing that as a catalyst. Hope is a catalyst of change. And I realized with that, for example, that first value for me in parenting was so key because there's so many times, even from when you first have a kid, like even like eventually probably you realize that
Mhm.
breastfeeding, like what the heck? How do we do that? You gotta be hopeful that this is really gonna get the nutrition that they need.
Mhm.
To having to take them to even dropping them off. I remember dropping my son off at an airport because he had an opportunity to do something great in another state. He had won an
Mm.
entrepreneur competition, and just like,
Wow.
okay, being hopeful in that, to then letting them make decisions that, it's like, that's not exactly the direction it was going to go. But, we gotta be hopeful. I am hopeful that what you learned, the seeds that we planted in here when you were home, are
Mhm.
going to take root and are going to sprout when you're out there doing what you're called to do. And hope very much is, you don't know quite how it's going to turn out, but you're hopeful, and that's why you take action today because of what you believe that this is going to bring by tomorrow. So I would say that was very much rooted in me as a kid because there was no promise of tomorrow. There was no solution. As a matter of
Mhm.
fact, what I had learned going through this disease is that the best efforts to save me had failed consistently. And yet I was being asked to trust again and again and again
Mhm.
with my body.
Mm.
And that was the other part. Trust is another one of my hopes, actually, in my framework. Trust is the fifth. A part of heart is trust being the currency of the leader because I had to learn that not you don't build trust just because you're successful in anything, but in the success, in the failures, communicating the failures well, being honest about the failures. Does in itself build trust. You don't only build
Mhm.
trust when you're successful. You
Yeah.
can build trust when you are failing. And there's a way to grow through that. So I would say, as a kid, I learned that in my body, and later on as a parent,
Mhm.
when there were many times I messed it up. There was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or like I punished the wrong kid. I had five. So like,
That
but
is so
being
funny.
open, right, about that, it's like, yeah, maybe that wasn't it, or the fact was that I'm the one who forgot that it was pajama day. Now they're all upset at me, and I'm like, this is not a big of a deal. Like, not being empathetic parent because I missed pajama day, So, it's those kind of things. Again, it was in that building. Is still, can we build from that, right? I mean, for me, I had to be the empathetic. I had to build trust again. Like, hey, no, I'm going to do better next time.
Mm.
We're going to prepare for this. But very much understanding that in parenting, it is a leadership position. It's going to test you
Mhm.
every single way. It's
Yeah.
emotional, it's physical, it's everything. And understanding that just like in leadership, we say trust is the currency for leadership, that same amount of trust has got to be intentional in parenting every single day. It's something we add to, it's something that we withdraw from when we're asking them to do things, and not because it's a top down doesn't mean that I don't have to be intentional in filling up that deposit or that account, because it's going to come into place, especially when they turn 18, when they turn an adult. You're gonna use that trust account that has been building for years, so that you are able to have that coaching parent, so you are able to have that influence in them, with them, as they do life, no longer needing you as the parent, but you get to walk along with them in coaching them, still having that influence with them. Trust is built from the time that they're born.
Wow, we are learning so much. Entrepreneurship, leadership, parenthood. You have it all. Technology.
You know,
I wish I
earlier you said that you frequently as a parent you don't have the answers. Sometimes you don't even have the questions. Like you, you're gonna even start there.
That's so true. That's why I loved one of the books, Great Leaders Ask Great Questions by Maxwell. And I was
Yeah,
like, yeah, that's a
right.
good one.
I'm so grateful that my kids are so honest. When I'm messing up, they tell me. I feel like I learned so much about leadership from them than from my own parents, right? Anyways, I
And
had to,
that's good too, Evangeline,
yeah,
because that means that you listen to them. And I think that's
mm,
been that's a big part of the fight is like we
yeah,
do have to listen because they're the ones, right? That like you said,
yeah,
they're honest, they tell us and like, I need to be humble enough as a person, as a parent to listen. And
yeah,
I believe the same thing happens in our leadership with our groups, but we
yeah,
don't give that safety, right? I mean, our kids, they at the end of the day, I think they all know that we love them, and
yeah,
they'll say it. We
yeah,
make it a point to make it a safe, loving space, and that same skill we need to take into our organizations, into the workplace.
yeah. I so love that. Yeah. And having the humility again to admit that I made mistakes. I was working and struggling, with burnout when I
Mhm.
was raising my kids. So they felt like I wasn't there. They
Mhm.
felt like I am very patient with patients, but not too patient with them, you know.
Mhm.
So there were probably patterns that I brought up from my own, childhood to my kids. And I'm so glad that grace and forgiveness is available to us, right? So that's one of the values that we, we mess up, we fight, but we forgive and we love. And that's the value that I always, want to inculcate in my kids' life. But anyway, going back to, I believe that you have a very high IQ, not
Oh, I don't know
not
about
just IQ, but
that,
EQ, but even higher EQ, right? Emotional, maturity, because starting even as a child, not understanding while other kids are playing or, doing sports, you're there at the hospital rooms, and that takes so much maturity. And where do you think you got that? You talk about hope, and you are struggling with not knowing if you're going to be alive, the next
yeah.
day. I mean, I think all of us do, but with that heart condition, you really feel it, right? When you can't breathe and your heart is hurting. So
Oh,
where do you think you got that emotional maturity and hope and trust?
well, I can't say I got through any of it without God, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I would say from as a child, I had a very close relationship with Jesus, with God,
Mm-hmm.
because I that's all I really knew. Like I said, like the people here couldn't help me. Like I understood enough as a kid that although they really tried, there was really nothing there. And being introduced to Jesus as at a young age, um, really like that's where my hope went. So even as a 5-year old, 6-year old, 7-year old, I had this relationship
Wow.
with with Christ. I had a relationship with God. I can't tell you as far as is there anything about my life as a kid ordinary? No. Evangeline, you know better. I had many times where I had no oxygen in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
Your heart beats so it can bring circulation, so it can pump oxygen. Oxygen feeds your brain. One of the things I was repeatedly told as a kid growing up, again, well-meaning experts, is
Mm-hmm.
that I was not going to be able to learn because
Wow.
of lack of oxygen. So that was something that I was aware again because obviously I'm not going to school. And, there's a lot of times I couldn't. I was too weak. Then times where I'm in the hospital for long periods of time. And of course, when I had my heart attacks, I mean, particularly the one that was when I was 10. This is again from the recollection of my parents and everything that happened, but I was actually declared dead. I was in the morgue,
Mm.
and I I came back to life. My parents received me, but at that point it had been 5 hours. Even if everything worked well, the brain without oxygen would
Mm-mm.
not allow, right? I mean, you think about even if she was to come out, even if we're talking about it's a clinical death
Yeah.
where there's no vitals and the brain's still alive, there's still not
Mm-hmm.
enough oxygen, right? Because it's been explained to me many different ways.
Yeah.
There was no logical way for me to get through any of this without some sort of learning disability, without some sort
Mm-hmm.
of uh, really being back, delayed, just from the mere fact that I wasn't going to school, right?
Yeah.
So to say that I could catch up was a dream. To say that I could even end up graduating with people of my same age in my same class was also another dream. Um, Much more to learn or any other part. One of the things I talk about with my leaders, and really that's where my book and my digital course came from, is because once I had my surgery, my innovative surgery, like once that happened, and 2 years later, it took for them to say, "Hey, you're normal. You don't have this heart disease anymore." I didn't really know how to be a human. I didn't
Mm.
have the experience with everybody else. I didn't know what it was like to live without those monitors. I didn't know what it was like to, hey, talk with other people, talk with other kids. I mean, my conversations were with nurses, with doctors,
Mm-hmm.
with techs. That was on a daily basis. So I had to take the time to learn. And again, that's where I guess I would say, if since my addiction, my focus came in. It was into learning, well, how do you do this living without other people telling you, in essence, how to live it? At that point, everything had been controlled in my life. So I would say actually relearning how to be a human, understanding humanity, understanding communication, understanding the need for love, to be loved, the empathy, and starting the understanding the cues. And I found so much of that in the emotional intelligence, learning about emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And then even in learning, so what happened in my school? I was able to take AP courses. Not only that, I actually graduated with my class. Not just that, but I got a scholarship to the university. And the company I'm telling you I ran, it was an educational publishing company. And later on
Mm.
in DC in 2014, I get elected to the board, the trade industry that
Wow.
leads out of K through 12. And later on, they voted me as chair. So I found myself in less than 20 years from not being able to go to school to now having direct influence of running the entire educational system for the United States, all the content K through 12.
Oh, wow.
And all I can say is really, am I as smart? No.
You
um,
are.
it was, I believe there's divine
Amen.
connection with that. I believe that there's perseverance, there's discipline with
Mm-hmm.
all that, but much more. I mean, really, I can't say, I can't deny the divine, the
Amen.
really divine connections because you're, how do you do that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't just say that except for every single time. It's not something I set up myself to do, but I did set myself out to learn from everybody everywhere I went. And I believe that's what really opened the doors for me. I honestly curious. I'm honestly curious about people's lives. I'm honestly curious about um, what are their challenges, what
Mm.
are their learning points, and I'm really do want to make that safe space for them to talk. And I believe 100% that the win when I was elected in DC, and I told that to my team, they weren't electing me, they were electing my team because I
Mm.
was really that spokesperson for my team. Now, our ideas that were just in a conference room were ideas that were leading the entire country at the time of this.
Wow.
That's I, I'm blown away.
Goosebumps.
I mean, I, you never really know what you're going to get whenever you start interviewing people like this, right?
I
Like
know.
you have no idea. I mean,
That's
people's
why I
life
love these
experience.
conversations.
Yeah, it's people's life experience is so
Yeah.
hard to predict, and you see people or you encounter people in rather mundane settings, and
Mm.
you just think, oh, that's just another person. And no, no, it's not. It's it's
Oh, we all have
it's
amazing.
a, it's a miracle of God is who it
You're a
is.
walking, talking, breathing miracle, clearly.
Yeah, but so are all of us. I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah.
honestly, you think about life, and again, Evangeline, you coming from your background. I mean, the possibilities, just
Hmm.
the odds. First of all, that we even get to be conceived,
Yeah,
the odds,
true.
they were mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it is that because just
Mm.
you look at the intricacies of just child, development inside the womb.
Hmm.
You look at just the intricacies, the complexity. We're still, thousands of years later, we're still learning about the human body. We're
Yeah.
still learning about what DNA does. We're still learning. Like we haven't. I mean, we talk about exploring space. We haven't finished exploring our own bodies. The way that our minds work, the neurons, the different things, and I think that's the part when we do look at ourselves. So yes, I do understand my story is different than some other people's stories. I know there's not everybody goes through like being in a morgue,
Yeah.
being completed surgery and all this stuff, but you don't have to go through that to understand.
Yeah.
There's times in your life where like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I made it through that. There's
Hmm.
times where like I really shouldn't have made it through that one car accident,
Yeah.
or that one illness that happened. It's like you think about that. There's
Hmm.
times in your life, or even just childbirth. Like
Yeah.
the fact that I made it through. So it's really looking at that miracle that may look different for you, but
Hmm.
it really is. You are that miracle. Things that people, the experts,
Yeah.
say that you can't do. I mean, think about some of the stuff that you've done that you didn't think that you have done.
Hmm.
And that was with me. I didn't set out to prove anybody wrong. I was just like, well, what else am
Yeah.
I gonna do? Let me be curious about it. And some of the stuff you're like too, like, um, hey, I have the time, I have the desire, why not?
Yeah.
And then you start doing it, and then suddenly you are blowing the experts out of the water because it shouldn't have happened to you, but it did.
Yeah.
So it's like those same stories. They may look differently, and but understanding that there are times. Then, I mean, for me again, I'm a person of faith.
Yeah.
Understanding that it wasn't me. I mean, I'm very thankful for the doctors. I remember they did a documentary on my surgery, so I didn't even know the whole impact of
Hmm.
the ablation that they did in 1992 until I got a call from the hospital, and they wanted to do a special news segment on it, but they wanted to put me in a documentary for the hospital's 100-year anniversary. And it was at that point that I heard my doctor, and I'm seeing him as another human, right? I am a mom now for, I'm hearing this, like, yeah, what is the doctor gonna say? Kind of like what you were talking about, Zach, where like, oh, you think like all these people, they have a little, as a parent, like as a kid, you think like they have it all figured out, and realizing they didn't have it figured out. They were just
Hmm.
as scared as I was. And I'm like, wait, what? You were gonna do a surgery on my heart, and you really didn't know what you were gonna do. But he himself, he called it on camera. It was a medical miracle that
Yeah.
just happened in front of their eyes. It was all
Wow.
recorded. And he called it just a scientific miracle. And I believe that that's
Mm.
the part. You have this very educated doctors, teams,
Hmm.
and they believe in miracles,
Amen.
that there's no other way, that they know there's a solution. They don't know what it's like, but there was a willing person, there was a willing group of people that were willing to help. And when you do that, you open yourself up for miracles. And I believe that's where a lot of us we need to come together and make room for those miracles to happen.
There are so many questions I want to ask.
I know, me too. We're not gonna be done here. I
I'm
have
just
so
like,
many every time. You're
uh,
sharing so much wisdom and so much insight. So
But we're just
again,
talking, so we're just talking,
I
right?
know.
It's just like, this is we talk.
Hey, did you write a book before Zach asked you a question? Did you write a book on that when you were declared or technically,
I
clinically
have
dead?
not. Yeah, no, I have not. And I can
That
tell you,
is that is that is so interesting. Like it's really a miracle.
everybody, I would say the first time I really spoke about it, like really went out to speak about it was during my stage time with Roddy.
Mm,
So that was and that's for those Maxwell team we have is this thing called stage time.
mm-hmm.
You go and you have a 3 minutes to give a story. So that was the first time in preparing for that I really, okay, let me sharpen this up. um, but prior to that, and this is how is sometimes lies are you believe lies,
Mm-hmm.
you believe hey, these are things that we just don't talk about, and that was me. When I got the call from the hospital, I I've kind of found myself like, well, I do want to help, but I'm like, I don't really tell people this because I don't want them to think I'm weird. I
Yeah.
mean, like, they're gonna, like here I am running a company doing these things, and it was something my heart disease. I had honestly kept it hidden. I kept hitting a lot of this part because I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. I mean, I had lived so much of my life,
Mm-hmm.
you're a kid with a heart disease, aw, kind of
Yeah.
thing. So I didn't want that to be setting me up in adulthood and what I did. So guess what? I just didn't talk about it. Oh yeah, heart disease. Yeah, I understand that. Like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, went through something. Oh yeah, yeah, a lot of people go through that. That was probably the extent of it. I think it actually the first time I allowed myself to go even back to that moment because it was a scary moment is something that you
Yeah.
hide. Was in 2012, 2013. So actually, from 92 oh two, so 20. It took me 20 years to go back
Mm.
to that moment when I was in the morgue to take a look at what did that really mean. And that's because that's when I felt that I really needed to go in and start be more I guess paying witness to what had happened. What had happened was this. But and that's actually when the call from the hospital came. It was around 2012, 2013, and by 2015 is when the documentary was going to be released. So it's just, again, how God prepared things. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wasn't like out there telling everybody, but I was
Mm-hmm.
open to be intentional in starting to talk about it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't something that's not the way I wanted to start the conversations, not something I wanted to be in the boardroom and people knew, this has happened. My kids kind of knew. I always told them their mom was a zombie, so they were afraid. So we had that going on, like, y'all. Me
I
too,
hope you,
myself.
I hope you put "Don't Dead Open" inside on your bedroom
Yeah.
door.
Yeah, like, hey, so there were things like that. As far as a book, I do have a book. It's called Hustle with Heart. And
Yay.
not, yeah, it's not about that particular experience. This is the framework I was talking to you about.
Mm-hmm.
The heart framework is the method. The heart framework is what was born in the hospital bed. The beat
Wow.
method is how I got through those moments, right? Again, a lot of this came together for me once I went back and I looked at it. But there was a pattern. Even if a lot of
Mm-hmm.
you go back, you start seeing their patterns on how you deal with things, on patterns.
Mm-hmm.
There could be habits, good habits or bad habits, right? So this the beat method is the pattern, that the habits on how I got through those moments where I couldn't breathe, those moments where I was having those chest pains.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I put. This is more of a tactical book. It's 52 weeks. Just a
Wow.
very short blurb because again, I got 5 kids, running a company, doing a lot of different things. I'm like, as much as I love all this stuff, I was like, I need something short, quick, and that I can do.
Yeah.
So that's how I developed it. As far as the story, of kind of the prequel, what you would call, to this book. This is basically the tactical aspect of what came
Mm-hmm.
out from that. But the prequel, I haven't quite yet. No, I haven't written it. I think it's something that it's gonna be in the works. My main thing is and I think right now, um, there's a lot of uncertainty. I mean, I run into a lot of leaders. Stuff doesn't make sense, right?
Mm.
The things that you did that were supposed to kick in by now, they haven't. The people that you thought were going to be there, they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Just perhaps things that the way what we thought things worked, the system, maybe you're having questions. And I think that's where a lot of my story has come in to help leaders individually, because there are times where I mean, it doesn't make sense. I don't think disease for anybody makes sense, especially when you're a kid, when it comes to heart disease. Um, the story, and haven't even told you like everything, like even how we ended up in the United States or any of that, but
I'm
uh,
curious about that too. So maybe next time we'll invite
yeah.
you again and you can share
So
that.
yeah, so like the whole thing, I mean, and you do the best you can do, and I honestly believe that God will do all you cannot do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
those times of faith where you really do have to rely on faith, and amazingly, I have talked to so many leaders that you think like, oh well, science doesn't require faith. It's like science requires a lot of faith, and that's what I've learned to. I learned from my doctors, even that when they were doing the documentary,
Yeah.
I even understand the financial systems now better because people are talking about faith.
Yeah.
Even in fintech, I mean, like that's all faith. The
Yeah.
value is faith based. I mean, you're looking at forecasting. Forecast is a hopeful state.
Mm-hmm.
It's not guaranteed. It requires a lot of faith to
Yeah.
recreate the infrastructure right now in a belief with what is going to be in the future. That's going to require faith. And guess what? It's not going to be logical. Things don't even make sense right now. And I believe that was a large part of my story. The things were not logical. That doesn't mean that you're just there, like not doing anything. On the contrary, there was a lot being done, and there was a lot of skill acquisition for me. I could have easily had a pass of
Mm.
did not having to go to school. I mean, everybody would have understood that if everybody, if
Yeah.
everybody said that right now. Like, I get it. You weren't able to get out from bed. We would be celebrating right now, whatever. But there was something deeper, right? I mean, in understanding the deeper desire and
Yeah.
going after that, even when it doesn't make sense. That takes not only your internal listening to your internal desire, but also the community, surrounding yourself with the right community that's going to feed that desire, even when it doesn't make sense. Which eventually did. I mean, I couldn't have ever told you, oh, I'm going to be leading the trade industry for education out of all things, the very area that
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even go to school for.
Yeah.
I didn't even speak English when I came to the United States, to now being led in a organization where
You teach.
90% of the membership did not look like me or had my experience in publishing. So that's I can't tell you is like, oh,
Yeah.
it's just ABCD. All I can tell you is values-based leadership. Um, you have to listen, be aware, you be the desire, have a way to grow. You need a community. And you do need to make room for divine appointments and make
Mm.
room for miracles.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Your story is so inspirational. I'm sure our viewers took a lot of gold, especially women like us, right? So appreciate you sharing all of this. And I have goosebumps listening to you. Your whole being, really, it's a miracle. And I'm so glad that you're so open about acknowledging God, because some people, they're not ready to, even if they have the faith, they don't say that. They want to be careful not to offend. But and even science, you can't separate faith from science.
Yeah.
Actually, science is slowly catching up with, what the Bible says, with what God teaches us. And I was just talking about this with my husband also yesterday, that I'm glad when people don't there are doctors for sure who say, I think you only have 3 months to live, bless their heart, sometimes that's what their experience and their education,
Yeah,
focuses on. But then that's why it was hard for me, being a person of faith, to be in that profession. Because when I talk about faith and God and miracles, they look at me like I'm from another planet, right? It's not very common, but there are still, and I'm glad when people don't take that as, you're not going to be able to learn. If you took that seriously and you believe that, imagine what would have happened to you, right? And here
yeah,
you are proving that when God created you, He already has a purpose for your life. And even the difficulties that you went through, those are part of the process of making you into that beautiful woman that is gonna influence and inspire so many people. So,
yeah. No, I appreciate it. And yeah, it's been an interesting ride because even from the faith community, right? I mean, sometimes they're like, well, I have faith, so I don't need the doctors. It's like, well, in my case, I needed doctors. In this case, it wasn't like I just had one miracle and it was healed and
yeah.
everything. So it was a combination,
Hmm.
of both the science and divine intervention, and also, well, the love that's surrounded
Yeah.
me. I mean, my parents, they're advocating for me when I can't talk for myself. So um I think sometimes we want to, like, okay, yes this but not that, yes here but not that, yes here, and
Mhm.
it's like it's not like that. We're complex human beings. It's a life. You can't, I mean, you, if you want to take faith out of everything, well, then don't invest in the stock market. Forget your
Mhm.
401k. The whole thing is based on faith. Emotional intelligence. Oh, don't want to
Mm.
be emotional. The entire stock market is an emotional response
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
whatever's going on. People talk about in the sell in the business. You can't bring emotion. You can't bring, leave your personal life out there and here. Well, how in the world is going to connect with the people that you're talking to? Sales is
Yeah.
an exchange of emotions. That's what it is. They tell us that you'll do business with who you like, know, and trust. Well, trust is an emotion.
Mhm.
Like a trust is a part of that. So you can't do that. So we've tried to do business. We've tried to do life separating. Well, I only want your professional self here. No, I only want the emotional part. And even in the in faith houses, only just faith here. And
Mhm.
we ignore all this part. Well, we've tried that. We're not where we want to be. You have over 77% of the population disengaged in business. You have over 56% of the leaders unable to make decisions every day, which is their number, that they're not confident. You have mental illness, have more than double, triple suicide rates
Mhm.
up the roof. I mean, I know here along within the teen community, they say we're 210% among the Latin community. Suicide rates going up. I mean,
Mhm.
we've tried that. That's what I'm saying. We have tried that. We have tried love being out of the business place. We have tried faith being out of what we
Mhm.
should be doing. It's not working for us.
Yeah.
And if as a humanity we can take a look at that, when we bring our whole selves, as
Amen.
messy as it is, with all the human parts that we like and we don't like, but we're able to be humble enough,
Yeah.
raise our leadership so that we can be leaders and come to the table in understanding one another. We can live a fulfilled life, not only
Mhm.
for ourselves, but for the organizations that we're looking to carry forward.
Amen.
My goodness. There's, I, we're gonna have to have like two more episodes of this because the number of questions that I have, it
Yeah.
just skyrocketing. But I don't even know how to I don't even know how to properly preface this. I think so. I think one of the points that you raised earlier, going back to what Evangeline was just talking about, um, and a point that you raised earlier was the essentially the limiting belief that was put on you
Mhm.
as you were, a child dealing with this condition, about how you're going to learn. This is one of the things that Jeff Willie talked about in the, episode that we did with him, where he said that the greatest um the greatest piece of advice he ever got was from a person of influence in his life who told him you can do it, right? That changed his life. Like it
Mm.
changed everything about his life.
Yeah.
And but he had also experienced a similar kind of limitation on his ability to be able to achieve um, in eighth grade or something. I think it was eighth grade. His teacher had told him, "Don't take algebra because you're not going to be good at it. You're never going to amount to anything." And so he didn't, you know.
Mm.
But I wonder, how, as you have seen these things happen in your own life and experienced them, how does the influence that you carry now, what kind of responsibility do you feel like you carry with the influence you have now?
Oh my goodness. I think it's actually saying that I'll always carry that responsibility with the influence I've had. And honestly, I don't, maybe the greater the influence, and I think maybe this is where a lot of our leaders go wrong, right?
Mhm.
Where there's compromises at the beginning because nobody really knows, nobody really
Mhm.
sees. So there may be a likelihood to, it's not a big of a deal, and compromise earlier on
Mhm.
so that all these little compromises together, when you get to a greater position of influence, and like that's when you're really going to make the difference, you really can't because you've compromised so much along the way. So
Mhm.
I think a big part for me is before I speak, before and I was, I mean, people say I'm very hard on myself on some of those things, but I refuse to take the stage at times where in my life didn't feel I quite had the right answer, or I was going through
Mhm.
questions myself, because I always know it's about the audience and I didn't want to transfer to the audience my questions yet that I had unresolved, or any internal things to where I'm saying one thing, but really, oh my gosh, if they only knew that part. And I sat down when I had my kids that were little. I sat down because I had a lot of things going on. I wanted to be with my kids. I sat down for for the 5 years, even right before COVID, and because I wanted to make sure my the message I was bringing was going to be a message that one that I had lived, not only learned from a book, which books are great, or one that I had heard in an audio tape, but one that I could tell have been tested and tried by fire. And oh my goodness, they have. Which I'm like maybe if I just been like, I don't know, like a it's like a trainer or workshop deliverer, I've been okay, but that's not my calling. So I think for me, it's understanding, being aware enough that the message we're privileged as a messenger, but also being true in that message. And it matters not when you're in the big stage, but before you
Mhm.
get to the big stage, in every little part you are,
Yeah.
every conversation you have with your kid, every conversation you have one on one with somebody else, they all count towards that big stage. I believe, I forget who was the boxer, but he said that champions are not made in the ring; they're simply
Yeah.
revealed there. So when it comes to opportunities for influence, that it's not that you are, let me really work on my message there, but really the reality, the truth of your message is revealed there, because the entire time you have been living that message,
Yeah.
and that influence only becomes a reflection of where you are. I have had now greater, if you're going to say greater influence, yes, I've been on a lot more stages. Yes, I've,
Mhm.
I've been, I think now this is my, I don't know, around my 75th podcast in the past 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Congratulations.
thank you. So, and that's because the message is resonating.
Mhm.
It's the influence is what I'm saying here now. No, I've been preparing for this for years.
Mhm.
It's been not compromising for years. And I think that's something that everybody has to understand, is that compromising and settling,
Mhm.
it's not the same as collaborating and
Mm.
going after fulfilling your purpose. Um, there is a difference in that passiveness. There's a difference in intentionality, and really in being that vessel that is going to carry the message. There's times where I've taken, I won't talk about certain content. I won't talk about certain things because I'm not, something has happened or I've gotten new information or I'm not like I haven't concluded or come to a sort of like understanding of what that was about. There's certain things
Mm.
that have happened that I haven't yet talked about. So I think that's another part is being wise. You don't have to know
Mm.
everything. I think in life you're gonna learn about yourself until the day we're no longer here.
Yeah.
You're not going to understand why everything happened or
Mm.
why certain things there, and that's okay. I mean, that's what makes life. That's what makes the
Mhm.
curiosity, keeping being curious. And there's some things that you have resolution to that it is time for you to speak now because there's some resolution to it. Doesn't mean that you have it all together. I don't
Mhm.
have it all together on certain things, but there's certain things like, hey, I'm better now. Like it took me 20 years to talk about my heart disease. It
Mm.
took me that time. And then after the 20 years, guess what? It's taking me 10 more years to work on, well, what exactly is the message in that? Because that's what happened. I mean, that was
Mhm.
2012. Then 2022, it's the first time I step on stage to talk about
Mm.
it. So
Wow.
also that is a time. So basically, it's a message in the making 30 years. So
Mhm.
it's also giving yourself, there was a message for that. Did that mean that I didn't speak at anything before that? No. I spoke about other things. I spoke about, the inspirational part. I spoke about leadership and business. I spoke about different things because there were different parts that I felt comfortable with and like, hey, no, I know this has worked in my life and that. There's some messages, and I think it's understanding that they may take longer. Doesn't mean that you're not saying anything. In my case, again, it's been a 30-year journey of developing that message. It's getting out now. It's like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
75 podcasts in 6 months. Yeah,
Yeah,
but it
wow.
wasn't 6 months. It's been 30 years.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I think is that it's like understanding the influence as your influence grows, understanding that the influence starts from the very beginning,
Mm.
where you're
Mhm.
willing to say yes, where you're willing to be that messenger, and in everything that you do, and being truthful to where you are in that message. And it's okay. You don't have to have it all there. You don't have to have all that part, but being owning the influence that you have with what you have at the time and trusting for grace and wisdom in the parts that you don't have because even as
Yeah.
you operate you start getting revelation on like okay this is
Yeah.
what works. I've trained governors. I've never been a governor, but God has put me there. I've been there, and guess what? They've continued to come to me. I've trained representatives. I've trained CEOs of 10-figure,
Mm.
multi-million dollar industries. I haven't been CEO of a multi-million dollar industry. No, yeah,
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah.
FYI. Like the where you're talking about they're making a straight 500 million, and yet I have been able to provide value with the core principles where they're at and be able to take them to the next level in their
Wow.
income. So, and I think it's understanding that the principles work
Mhm.
no matter where you're at, and in being honest. And there's certain things that both we can learn from anybody, like you, Angeline, you were talking about learning from your kids because they talk to you
Mhm.
because you listen, but also understanding that your message, your influence is going to look different at the different levels, and being okay with that as long as you are authentic, you are honest, and you're willing to serve, you're willing to
Mhm.
be in that room with the people, and trusting God.
Yeah.
My goodness. I think this we're already at an hour and 20 minutes. It
Yeah.
has absolutely flown by. Um, I, I don't I don't even know what to say next because
Yeah.
I think we're okay. I don't
I
want to
have
take too
I
much
have
of your time
notes.
for
I wrote a
for the
lot of
next
notes. I
podcast.
feel like I'm in a, mentoring, session. I'm learning so much. Sometimes you wish like Hannah was there when you were still starting, because some of my, I think, I wouldn't say insecurity, but sometimes I feel like I haven't even been in the $1 million thing, and how do I, just the things that she's sharing. So that's very, very encouraging, very, very inspirational, because you have the principles, you've applied it in your life. So that's wisdom. maybe not in other aspects, but if you apply it in one aspect of your life, then um it's gonna multiply, it's gonna affect all the other areas. There's so many things I wanna ask you still, but we wanna respect your time. I hope I get to meet your parents. I wanna say thank you and congratulations for raising, such a beautiful, talented, wisdom-filled human being who loves serving and who really loves people, because we can see that when you answer those calls, even in mentorship, you really show
Yeah.
interest. You show everyone that they are welcome, that they are listened to, that they are it's
Yeah.
okay to be yourself. It's authenticity is probably the best thing we can do, especially nowadays, right? Because that human connection, it's so valuable nowadays, especially being human and how to give grace and forgive and right, relate
Yeah,
to
it's some
one
things that
another.
never change. We think
Yeah.
we talk about all the things that change. There's some things that never change. Being a person of good principles and that wants
Yes.
to live with excellence, and being out there loving others, that's not going to change. I mean, I think
Yeah.
myself included, we focus so much on so much that's changing. Well, how
Mhm.
about we focus on the things that are not change, or won't change? The fact that we are humans, that's not going to change anytime soon. I mean, we talk about transformation, but we're really not talking to different species. But serving other humans,
Yeah.
how other humans want to be served. So I think there's certain things, but I appreciate you saying that. You actually have a call tonight, Evangeline. The
Oh,
business call at 8 p.m.
Wow.
So, but yeah, it's been an interesting ride, and I think this is the part I would definitely not be here when my parents, the mentors. I've had mentors. I 100% believe in coaching. I 100% believe in mentors. They've been a steady part in my life because I honestly did not know what to do. So
hmm.
the wise thing to do is to go talk to somebody who's been there before. And that's where
Amen.
mentors really help. Coaches help you with, seeing those blind spots, because as much as you want to get out there and do everything yourself, or, you feel you can take it on and you have the desire and all, we have blind spots. All of us do. And that's
True.
why,
All of us.
we need each other.
Yes.
So that's I make sure that I consistently have my coaches and I have my mentors and I have that community, because we need that. I
Mm.
don't think any one person is self-made ever. If they tell you that,
If they are, they're not telling the truth, right?
I was like,
I know.
Well, we've got just maybe 5 or 6 more minutes before we do hit 90 minutes on this
oh my goodness.
podcast. So, but I want to kind of move towards wrapping things up here because I do want to be respectful of your time. I know you have another call this evening, and
Yeah.
um, we usually do a thing at the end where we just kind of ask each other, what have you learned? So,
Mhm.
Evangeline, you said you took some notes.
I had a
What's
lot of notes,
Pick one of them.
pages.
What which one's the most impactful for you from today's conversation?
It's hard to choose, but really it is the emotional intelligence. Using your struggle, your pain, your greatest, hardship, and realizing that it's not happening to you, right? It's happening for you and the people that you are called to serve. And that's what Hannah is so graciously modeling for us. She's not, you know, it's easy to say, oh, I'll just, rest, or I'll just take care of my kids. It's easy to do that for us, especially women, because sometimes I think about that. But when we know that our life is really a gift, right? Every moment, every second is a gift. And we won't be here if not for God's faithfulness in us, for his healing hands. And so we want to give back. And I see that so much in her, that she's so much about giving back and loving people and just helping and empowering, especially other women. So I want to thank you, Hannah,
Oh,
for being such an inspiration. Yeah. I I didn't have so many when I was growing up because we live in a very little community. We didn't have TV even at the time. I
yeah,
wish,
100%.
but right now what you're sharing is really I had a lot of goosebumps when you were sharing. I want to also hear eventually your story of immigrating to the United States because that's
Yeah.
very relatable also. I struggled with that. We almost went back to the Philippines the first
Yes,
2 weeks. It was
it is.
tough. So yeah, I got so many gold nuggets that I will be sharing also in my groups, in my kids and my family. So appreciate you so much.
Oh, thank you, Evangeline. Appreciate it.
I, I think
How
that's
about you,
beautiful.
Zach?
Yeah,
What's your
I
number
think
one?
I think you nailed it. I think it's I think the oh I my train of thought just ran away from me. I had a while you were talking, what was the first thing you said? Um, Come
Emotional
on,
intelligence.
brain. What was that?
Emotional intelligence. She was talking about emotional intelligence.
I don't know.
I say things and then I forget what I
That's
said.
Oh,
I get
brain, brain.
50-year-old, um, I don't know. I exactly what you said is the how I was thinking about this. It's the 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 persistence that you show through unbelievable
Mhm.
circumstances. It, for someone who's not lived through that, looking from the outside in, it's like you just you start to think, well, gosh, how would I ever deal with something like that? It's just that's an unbelievable uh, you know thing to have happen, and then it started to. I thought of there's a speaker named Peter Daniels, who's a very wealthy businessman, and he speaks in churches and stuff. But one of the things that he was talking about was, you should always be grateful for the problems that come into your life because they show you that you're still alive and that God has
Mhm.
a plan for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that I kind of fell away from church and faith,
Mhm.
years ago, and then started making my way back about, I don't know, 15, 13 years ago, something like that. And that was one of the first things that I included in my prayers whenever I would say my prayers was, thank you for the opportunities and the challenges. And
Yeah.
like it just you never know. It's very easy to get sucked into thinking, this sucks, you know. This is a really crap situation that I'm in.
Yeah.
And not God is doing this so that I can learn something.
Mm.
And people all too often they're like, "Well, what are you supposed to learn from a heart defect?" I don't know. Maybe ask Hanna Bauer. You know, like there's so much that you can learn if you're just open to it.
Yeah.
How you can be an inspiration to other people is like kind of the generalized version of any learning, right? But how does that actually happen? You have to be open, number one, to the idea that, hey, everything happens for a reason.
Mhm.
God is here, he loves me, and he's not going to do something to me without giving me an opportunity to use that to help his other children in some way,
Yes.
you
I
know?
agree.
So
I
anyway,
agree.
before I get all choked up, I'm gonna stop talking.
Where can our viewers get your book?
Well, you can have it at Amazon. There's also a link on my website, heartnomics.com, and you can go in and under book, you can get it through there, or Hustle with Heart, 52 mini shifts to maximize your impact is available in Amazon as well, or connect with me on LinkedIn. And that's another way to even continue the conversation. If any part of what we talked about is of interest to you, want to work through some of the things, I'm happy to get on a strategy call with any one of your listeners.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that
You're
generosity.
welcome.
I would love to work with you on that book that I mentioned. The miracle book.
Yeah,
Sometimes when I
definitely.
talk about miracles, people are like, "Oh, that happened way, long when that was a season." I'm like, "No, God does miracles. We just have sometimes we
Yeah.
don't see it, sometimes we don't, right? But He is a God of miracles."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say real quick with that is I probably would not have been outspoken about that miracle had I not heard about somebody else witness about their miracle. Well, I think
Yeah.
that's one of the big parts because, like, okay, so I don't think they're weird. I think that's awesome. It's like, well, maybe my
Yeah.
story's not weird. It's like awesome. So, I think, sharing. We all have a
Yeah.
miracle story. We really do.
True.
And sharing that sparks somebody else having the courage to share theirs as well. And definitely, I gained the courage from other people to share mine.
So true. So true. I have two stories of miracles that I haven't really talked about so much. So you just inspired me.
There you go. Yay.
Okay,
Well, thank you so
Zach.
much, Hannah.
You're quite welcome. It's a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you.